Welcome back, everyone. We got another package in the mail. I've been buying most of my parts online these days, only because I've had some pretty bad luck with the local auto parts stores. So they just don't seem to have anything I need in stock. Need an air filter? Sorry, you'll have to order it, and it'll be in the store in 3 days. Or I need brake pads. Sorry, we don't have those. We don't have the rotors either. But we can order it online for you. Or I need an oxygen sensor. We only carry the generic brand, Duralast. How many would you like? See, that's been my that's what I've been dealing with. Seriously, I'm so disappointed in what's happening to the to the neighborhood auto parts stores. They don't seem to have anything in stock anymore. They just put it in warehouses, and it's like, why don't I just buy the stuff online and do it myself and cut out the middleman? Anyway, decided to treat this little Miata to some genuine Denso parts. We've got a genuine Nippon Denso oxygen sensor, oil filter, and air filter. These are basically OEM Japanese quality. In fact, let's see where these parts are actually made. I bet you it's not Japan, though. It's probably either China or Mexico. Let's see. The air filter is made where? Made in China. The oxygen sensor is made where? Let's see what we got here. Made in assembled in the USA. And the oil filter, fabrica in China. It's a little surprising. I thought all Denso stuff was made in Japan. I guess I was wrong. I want to take the new O2 sensor and compare it to the OEM one. I still have the original sensor, and we're going to see how this compares to the original one. I've also got a Walker O2 sensor that I installed about a year ago, and the car hasn't really run right since. Honestly, yeah. The Walker sensor just, I think it's causing problems. The car has been running a little bit, I want to say rough. And I'm not too happy about that. So here's the Nippon Denso sensor. And there should be a stamp somewhere on the shell. There it is. Assembled in USA. Okay. Here's the new one. And the original one from 1994 is right here. Let's take a look. Let's see, do a little comparison here. And, well, we have the same hole pattern, although the holes are a tiny bit smaller on the cap. The body is very similar in style. The upper cap is a little bit different, though. The wire should be about the same length. Hopefully that's actually a little longer. Okay, so we're good there. The correct wire. Now let's take a look at the unbranded. Oh, the Walker sensor is in the car. All right, I'll have to take it out. So let's do that, shall we? I'll put that aside, and let's rip the O2 sensor out. Now on the Miata, and I believe all iterations of Miata are fairly similar in this regard. But the O2 sensor, you can access it right from the driver's side wheel well. And I'm going to unplug it up top here. Alright. You guys can't see what I'm doing, can you? No, you can't. Alright, that's fine. I didn't bother to attach the wire to anything when I pulled it out the first time. Now we're going to grab an oxygen sensor wrench, and the idea is you slide the wire through the slot and get your where's my panel light? Is it on the other side? It must be. It makes things a little easier when you can see what the hell you're doing. Alright, then we just stick it on there and give it a twist. Yeah, this one's a bit of a bear to get to. Gotta be honest. I just had this thing out too. It shouldn't be too tight. There we go. Now, what you want to do is that when you're pulling it out, you want to have the wire outstretched so you don't twist it and potentially break it. Alright, there we go. Let's compare the Walker Texas Ranger with the Nippon Ditso, made in that Japanese prefecture of Alabama. Here we go. Definitely not the same sensor. The Nippon Denso is not only bigger, but the whole design is much different. So, yeah, much cheaper looking. Probably made in China. And we're going to put that aside. I didn't realize I was buying a Walker or an off-brand when I bought that one. I thought I was buying an OEM sensor. I was sadly misled. I would have never bought that if I had known, because this sensor is actually a little bit cheaper. It comes with this copper shmoo. This is important for to prevent that sensor from getting locked in permanently and becoming part of the downpipe forever. So we want to get that on the threads, but not on the sensor. No, it's in your mouth, but not in your hand. Okay. There we are. Now we just get it in there. I really should do something about my lighting, shouldn't I? Okay. And we just gently thread it in the bung. That is the proper term. It is called a bung. B-U-N-G. I wonder why they haven't used that word on Sesame Street yet. B-U-N-G. Bung! Okay. Send it to the moon. You want it just tight enough to crush that crush gasket. No tighter than that. And then we're gonna, it's not structural or anything. You just don't want it to leak. Okay. And the next part of the install is you want to route the wire up through here. Without cutting yourself or the wire loom. Now on this car, I believe it has to be routed in a very odd way to be done correctly. There is a method to this. It has to be routed behind all of those hot pipes and hoses. Let me try to get it in there and you'll see what I mean. I should put tripod mounts under the hoods of these cars. Alright. Let's see. So you're in view. I'm going to scratch the paint with this cord, but that's okay. Alright. Now, if I recall, the original one was routed behind the heater hose, under the ground wire. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so the wire had to go under the ground wire somehow. Definitely behind the heater hose. It was a challenge. Do you believe the one thing holding me up from getting this car on the road today is a little 20mm bolt? I just don't believe it. A little 20mm bolt, grade 8.8, I think it is, that I'm not willing to buy at Ace Hardware because I value my life. It's a very critical suspension bolt, kind of important. Okay, it was definitely routed behind the EGR pipe, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. Let's see. Gotta go under the radiator or the heater hose. They definitely build the car around these things, don't they? There was a clip that it went into. It's all but completely inaccessible at this point. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, it's got to go. How the hell did I do that? It's got to go alongside that little clip, which means that it has to go under the EGR pipe somehow to keep it safe from nasty things. Let's see if I can do that. I did it once before. I just don't remember how. Let's see if it fits. Oh yeah, I can fit my hand just barely. It's barely inside there. And it just goes up here. Oh, there we are. There we are. Okay. There we go. There we go. And then I can get it in the clip. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, there, I see it. I'm gonna grab something to prise it in there. So this is an OBD1 car. Now, on an OBD1 car, you don't have the analysis that you typically have with what we now have with the OBD2 cars. In other words, there's no live data to see on the ECU. So if I wanted to see, the performance of the catalyst or of the O2 sensor, I don't have that data available to me. These cars are a little bit nicer because of that, because it takes a major catastrophe to trip an O2 sensor. And let me rephrase that. It takes a major catastrophe to trip the check engine light on these cars. Like, there has to be something really wrong. You don't get those ridiculous nuisance codes that your OBD2 cars used to get back in the day when they were unreliable as shit. Let's see if I can get this stupid thing in that little clip. This is the most challenging part of the job, is getting it into its little clip. Most people don't do that. I'm pretty sure that most people are just gonna leave it the way it is, and that's it. That's how it's done. But I am not most people. Okay, I think I'm in. Feels like it. Let's see what we got. I can barely, yep, we're in that clip. Let me show you what I'm doing. Alright, let's see if we can get in there. A lot of shadows here. There's a little clip that's to the left, to the right, sorry, of the dipstick tube. That's where it goes. You want to make sure that wire is not really loose and floppy. We're going to pull it taut a little bit. There we go. And we'll take up any slack up top here. We just don't want it touching the, right over here. You want to make sure you don't run it on the wrong side or drape it over the steering shaft. That would be a big uh-oh to do that. All right, and it goes alongside the back here. On the other side of the camshaft position sensor, where it then plugs into here. Let's see if you can see that. Plugs into this. Only goes in one way, so there's no way to screw it up. There we go. And then this clips on to here. Wait a second here. Oh, it came with a new clip. Oh, that's cool. I'll just pull that off then. We'll just, it's sacrificial anyway. We'll just break it off. There we are. And then this goes in there like that. And that is how you change the O2 sensor on your classic Miata, an OBD1 car. Now an OBD2 car is going to have multiple O2 sensors, depending on how many cylinder banks you've got. So I thought I would take a moment to talk about what an oxygen sensor is and what it does in oversimplified layman's terms. The oxygen sensor is the eyes and ears of the ECU. It tells the ECU essentially whether or not the engine is burning efficiently. Is it running too lean? Is it running too rich? And in order for that oxygen sensor to do its job, it has to reach a temperature of about 600 degrees Fahrenheit. And on this OBD1 car, it has what they call a heated oxygen sensor. So the heated oxygen sensor has 4 wires. 2 wires for the heating element and 2 wires for the sensor itself, as far as I know. I've seen some 1-wire ones as well. So what it does, when the car is cold, it fires up a heating element that heats this right up. And then once the exhaust temperature reaches operating temperature, I'm not sure if it shuts the heater off or keeps it going. I'm not clear on that. But so that's one thing it does do, and that's why you have 4 wires here, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, a couple of things. First, when the engine's cold, while the system is reaching operating temperature, the ECU does not use the readings off the O2 sensor, or oxygen. I'm going to call it an O2 sensor from here on out. Because it's not hot enough, and it's running extra rich because the engine's cold. So what the ECU does is it operates the engine in what's called open loop mode. And open loop mode is where it uses predetermined parameters that are based on the reading from the coolant temperature sensor. The coolant temperature sensor says, hey, I'm cold. Run rich. Don't ignore the sensor over here. He does nothing right now. Just do what you know. Run the engine. And then once I report back that we're up to a predetermined set temperature, I will then tell you, Mr. ECU, to start using the data you collect from the oxygen sensor. So That is why when your engine is cold, you might notice it seems to be running a little bit rich. The exhaust might be more pungent because it's running on a predetermined amount of fuel based on what it's seeing from the temperature sensors. Once the engine reaches operating temperature, it switches to what's called a closed loop mode. Now, closed loop mode is where it uses feedback from the oxygen sensor to make continuous adjustments to the fuel delivery. So what that means is when the engine is warm, or warm started even, it's going to continuously read from the sensor. And you'll notice if you could hook up a data collector or a reader on this ECU, which it does not have, being an OBD1 car, you would see constant trim adjustments to the fuel. When it's cold, in contrast, when it's cold, the fuel delivery is fixed. It does not change. It stays to whatever the ECU program tells it to do. Using the heat from the exhaust and some pretty cool chemical reactions, this sensor produces a very small amount of electricity, something like a volt or 0.47 volts or something like that. And it is the amount of oxygen present in the exhaust stream that transfers that voltage from the sensor itself to the output wire on the. Now, I'm this is not scientific. This isn't something you're going to write down in a test because it's very loosely based on reality. But this is really what's happening. So this is generating electricity, and the amount of oxygen present in the exhaust stream is what tells the ECU, or I'm sorry, what sends that voltage. So a lean mixture, okay, that's, I believe, higher oxygen levels on the exhaust. I could be wrong. A lean mixture doesn't transfer as much electricity out of this sensor to this plug as a rich mixture. So if it starts to see a higher voltage coming from the O2 sensor, it's going to start trimming back the fuel delivery a little bit until it reaches stoichiometric, which is the precise air-to-fuel mixture balance that it's looking for. And that's basically what's happening. You got it? Good. For more information, there are plenty of articles online you can read that tell you exactly. There's a zirconium chip in there, something like that. There's a lot to this sensor than you might think. A lot more than you might think. Now, I want to kind of plow forward and get off of that subject and talk about why your car might have more than one sensor. So the OBD1 vehicles, that's Onboard Diagnostics 1, that's precursor to OBD2, they only use one sensor. And the sensor is located usually just before the catalytic converter, or somewhere between the manifold and the catalytic converter. And that's all well and good because it gives it a continuous feedback loop to constantly adjust the amount of fuel going to the mixture. Okay. The OBD2 cars, that's cars that, like the one sitting in my driveway outside that garage door, they're all OBD2 cars, and they have more than one sensor. In fact, all the four cylinders I've ever owned have had two, and the V6s have had at least three of them. And on an OBD2 car, you've got a sensor right about here, right about there. It's going to be usually right in the manifold. Easy to get to in a front-wheel drive car, for sure. And then there's going to be one in about the same location that this car has one. Now, how that works is the sensor that's closest to the cylinder banks is the one telling the ECU to lean up or richen up. Lean out, richen up, whatever. But the sensor closest to the catalytic converter does a completely different function. And it may actually read both sensors, depending on how the ECU is programmed. It might read both sensors to determine, okay, happy medium somewhere, there's got to be, you know. But the purpose of the other sensor is also to determine whether or not the three-way catalyst is doing its job. The three-way catalyst on a modern car is located right about there. And it's a small catalytic converter that reduces a certain type of emissions. I'm not going to get into that right now. But because of the regulations involved in, you know, modern car design, the EPA wants to know if the catalytic converters in these cars are actually working. And that other sensor helps to make that determination. So it reads the exhaust gas data before and after that additional catalytic converter to determine whether it's running efficiently or not. But I'm sure it has other purposes that I'm not going to dive into either. As for the other catalytic converter, because you not only have a catalytic converter here, but you've also got the one that's under the car, and those, for some reason, don't have their own sensors, at least not in the cars I've owned. Does that make any sense to you guys? I hope so. Okay, now I went out and I bought a couple of other things. I bought an oil filter, I bought an air filter. Let's change out the air filter on this car. It doesn't really need one, but it's at a point where the filter is already 2 years old, and it's got somewhere around 12,000 miles on it. So, what the hell? When in Rome, might as well see the Parthenon. Now, I believe these are captive. Yeah, they are, so I don't have to worry about them falling out. When you've got a car stored for any length of time, you might notice that mice really love air boxes. They like to get up into this hose right here. They like to crawl into these hoses and find their way in. And then what they're going to do is they're going to pull the air filter element apart and use it as nesting material. I've seen it before. Hope I don't see it again. Not on this car, but I've seen it in other cars that have been sitting. And it's always cars that are sitting around. Alright. Did I not? No, I didn't. Really? Oh, these are not captive. Yeah, I don't like that. I like the clipped-on ones. You know, the air filter box clips. Those are nice. Let's take a look. See what we got going on. Oh yeah, this wire here. For some reason, they didn't make the, oh, there it is. Just slip this out. Lift it up and pull it out. There we go. Let's take a look at this guy. I put this thing on when I bought the car. Look at that, it's pretty clean. It's very clean. It actually doesn't even need to be changed. But whatever, we have a new one, we'll put it in. So the filter that was on the car when I bought it was installed. Now I bought the car in summer of 2018. The filter that I pulled out was made in 1999. The car hasn't moved much in 10 years. Here's the new filter. Let's do a comparison here. Again, it doesn't need it, but we're doing it anyway. I mean, alright, so maybe it's a little dirty, but it's not too bad. It's a Wix. Good filters. This is a Denso. Basically your factory replacement. I'm going to mark off the mileage. I usually write that in marker. And we're going to put the mileage and the date of install. I'm going to slide this in. I'm going to put the camera down. It's too much of a pain in the ass to film and do this. Alright, next up we're going to do the oil filter. This is a genuine Denso oil filter. Now this car is kind of a pain in the ass to do the oil filter on because you have to get to it through here. and there's just not a lot of room to work. But because we have the splash tray off, we might be able to get it from underneath. Let's take a look. Alright, so there's our starter. Filter's right up here. Oh, is that it? Feels like it. Yeah, that's it. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get to, isn't it? I have to use my other hand. Okay. There we go. But I've had to do this from the top, and it's no fun. But look what it does. The oil just drips right through, and that might be most of the oil that we see. Look at that. And you can't even avoid it either. But that may be most of the oil that we see on our undercarriage. Look at that mess. That's awful. What a shitty design. I'm sorry, I'm calling them out on that. That's why there's oil all over the rack. It's not leaking. It's from that. Son of a bitch. So I think the nice gentleman at Advanced Auto Parts sold me the wrong filter when I bought this one. This is a totally different filter from this. And I checked the cross-reference, and this cross-references to a Wix 51365. They sold me a 51356. So that happened. Alright, so I just took some motor oil and I lightly oiled the seal. That's a critical step that a lot of people who are new to auto maintenance tend to skip, and they don't realize that they could be putting their engine in peril by doing that. Not the engine, but the seal. You can actually damage the seal by not doing that, because as you're threading it in, the seal can bunch up or gall, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that. But I just looked it up, and that is the correct filter for the car. But ironically, so is the Wix filter I have. So I don't know what's what any more than you do. Okay, let's get under this car and try to get this filter back on. And then I gotta wipe up a huge freaking mess. Alright, where's the threaded stud? Okay, we got it started. I mean, it's just, I'm gonna feel the flange a little bit. The flange is pretty good size, so I mean, I can imagine how it would accept a couple of different filter sizes, but I don't know. That's what it tells me I need. So, well, we'll know within the first couple of seconds of starting the motor whether or not we were right or wrong. I don't think I'll be able to change the oil. Oh yeah, no, I can. The plug's right there. I should be able to get to it. Let me grab a clean rag, and I'm going to tighten that filter down. Not too tight, though. Yeah, should be fine. But maybe this is why so many Miatas have rust-free subframes, because the way the damn filter is designed, it's practically going to guarantee that you bathe it in oil every time you change the damn filter. So that's actually quite clever. When you think about it. It's a, what on earth does this hose do? Can anybody tell me? I don't know. Alright. That'll clean that up. Clean the freaking garage floor. My God. Look at that mess. Look at that mess. What a mess. Ew. And now the fun part. Ugh. We're going to change the oil. There should be enough oil to just about fill this bucket. Not much more than that. About 3 quarts. 3 point something quarts. Oh, I need a wrench. That's what I need. Yeah, you can't really get a socket in there very easily. It can be done, but I forget what size it is. That's a 19 mil. Let's see. I think you can break it free with a socket, but yeah. Right. Ugh. More spelunking. I love spelunking. Don't you? Yeah, that's not a very good fit. Fortunately, it wasn't that tight. If anything, it was loose. I should check on that next time. Okay. This oil's got about 2,600 miles on it. Shouldn't be too dirty. Always be sure to use a brand new, correctly fitted drain plug gasket. Now, if I recall, this engine was slightly overfilled. So, what do we pull out of this thing? 96, so we're gonna 104 ounces. So, about, yeah. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put, drain this too. Yeah, we're gonna put 100. We're gonna put 3 quarts in there, maybe 3.5 quarts total. 2, 3.5. No, let's see. Let's do 3. Let's put 3 quarts is what we're gonna put in this engine, and we'll top it off later if needed. So that's it. So 3 of these to get her started, and that's 32 ounces is a quart, and that's 3 quarts times 3. And then once we get the car on the ground, we will make necessary adjustments. So we drive the car, get the filter full. 3 quarts will prevent her from seizing up. Let's put it bluntly. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that this engine was already overfilled. I think the diff stick read a little bit too high. So, here we go. One, 2. The total capacity is just over 3 quarts on this engine. So. Okay, that one's spent. I have a full one in my other car. Okay, we got the O2 sensor done. We got the oil changed. And we got the oil plug in. Air filter. Okay. Doing a mental checklist to make sure I don't miss anything. And now I gotta go find the key to start this whole beast. Hello. Okay, buds. Fire in the hole. Let's see what's gonna happen. So tomorrow, I fully anticipate having the bolt, maybe tomorrow, here we go. Make sure we get oil pressure. We got oil pressure. That's just how this exhaust sounds, I guess. Okay, I don't smell unburned exhaust. That's good. Engine sounds tight. All's well. That's the last thing you want to do is smell any unburned exhaust fumes. It should smell catalyzed. That's how you know you don't have any leaks. So far so good. Yeah, I smell what's coming out from the exhaust pipe. That's what I want to smell. I mean, I don't, but that's what I want to, you know. It's better than the alternative. Nice. Very nice. Yep, that's what it should be. I think she's been running a little rich. What do you think? As we were talking, when the engine reaches operating temperature or gets close to it, it goes into open loop mode, where it starts to pull readings from the O2 sensor to trim the fuel delivery. And I think that's where we're at now. Sounds pretty good though. Good and tight. I do smell some undercoating and shit burning though, but that's gonna happen. Moisture. I'm going to check the exhaust gasket or the gaskets for leakage of water. Is that wet? A little wet. So there's a little bit of water coming out of that seam, but I'm not going to worry about it. I think that's what that is. Yeah, it's just water. That's okay. It's got to go somewhere. And no, that's not a blown head gasket, regardless of what you read on the internet. A blown head gasket would produce a lot more steam than what you're seeing. She's quieted right down though. Alright, shut her down. All right. So hopefully tomorrow I'll get that bolt. I'll get the other side of the suspension replaced, and then we'll do a follow-up video of the car actually driving. Hopefully sooner than later, because we're going to get snow very soon. And like I said, once the snow hits the ground, this car does not move from its eternal rest. Oh yeah, I gotta clean all this up now. Thank you for watching.